Hello, everyone. Welcome to another episode of the Brown Girl in Beijing podcast. And I'm your host, Dr. Baby. Hello, and welcome to episode 6 of the Brown Girl in Beijing podcast. Today we are going to be talking about church in Beijing. Stay tuned.
I know you've been jamming with your crew. You got to leave, but that one last won't do. I want to put another wine on you. I got that good. If I put it right there, would you wine on me?
So before we get started with the meat of today's episode, I just want to give a shout out to Letitia Priscilla, one of my little baby doves. I love you. I appreciate you. Thank you for watching. Thank you for sharing. Thank you for commenting every single time. You're always engaged. Truly, truly appreciate that. And for everybody else, I really do appreciate anyone who has watched even just one or listened to even just one of these episodes. I had someone tell me the other day that he was searching for a new podcast to listen to, and he just typed in Beijing. Let's see what's going on in Beijing. And the Brown Girl in Beijing podcast came up and he listened. And so that made me super happy. So thank you guys for listening, for sharing, for watching, for all of that good stuff, for engaging, interacting. That's my heart. Well. All right. Now to get into church. Those of you who know me and who have known me, I've been churched. I've grown up in church all of my life. Like, that's just always been a big part of who I am. So what I'll do in this episode is walk us through the journey, my church journey, and how we ended up where we are today. Sounds good? Amen. I am from Freeport, Grand Bahama, the Bahamas. I was born there, lived there for a while, moved to New Providence, lived there for a while, back to Grand Bahama, then to Virginia, then back to Grand Bahama, and now to Beijing. And in every one of those places, I've had a church home. So as I said before, church has always been very important to me, and not just because of my beliefs, but also because of the fellowship that I have and the relationships that have been fostered. Excuse me. The relationships that have been fostered through going to church, through having a church home. So in the Bahamas, in Grand Bahama, my church is Bethel Ministries. You can find them on Facebook, where my brother, Reverend Adrian L. Bethel, is the pastor. And that's been my church, my home church since it started, right? So it's been a while. In New Providence, my church is Zion Baptist Church, East and Shirley Streets. So when we moved, we really lived just a few minutes walk away from this church, where the pastor is Reverend T.G. Morrison. And at first, I did not want to go, but it was only because, and when I say I didn't want to go, I didn't want to go to like youth meeting or choir practice. And it was only because I'm an introvert. I've always been an introvert. And so going into new spaces, new places, seeing new faces, it's all very overwhelming for me. So as a child, my mother would be like, go, get out from under me, go. I'm like, I don't want to go. I want to stay home. What are you going to do? Are you going to stay home? I'm going to stay home with you. But I'm glad that she pushed me, because once I started, never stopped. There was a joke that I was the first one in, last one out. I just loved it so much. Loved being around those people. And I think that I was around 12 when we moved to New Providence. And oh no, I was 10 when we moved to New Providence. And that was really the bulk of my experience in New Providence. That made up the bulk of my experience being in church. And so I was a part of youth ministry. I was in the choir. Eventually, I joined the praise team, I think, or at least sang with the praise team at some point. I helped out around the office just on days when I wasn't working and had nothing to do. I go to church and help out any way that I can. So that's just always been a part of my life. So moving home, got to spend time with Bethel Ministries, got to help out with youth with my mother. She helps with the youth there. Maybe dabble in like Sunday school, vacation Bible school, sing on the praise team, whatever I can do to help. Then I moved to Hampton, Virginia for school. And at Hampton University, we have a memorial chapel, or the memorial chapel. And that was my church home for a while. Being in the choir, we sang in the chapel at least once a month. So, that was me with Reverend Higgins, who is one of my spiritual mothers. Love her. So it wasn't until 2011, I moved to Virginia in 2010. In 2011, the fall, right after our choir director passed away, Mr. Dillard, there was supposed to be something happening for him at Ivy Baptist Church, I think. It didn't happen, or it happened at another time, and I just went at the wrong time. I don't know. But that is how I ended up at Ivy Baptist Church. And while there, the youth minister at the time, Reverend Vernon Woodard, who is one of my big brothers, he made this plea for persons to come and help with the youth ministry. And I'm like, oh, that's my area. I've been doing that. So I can go and help. The catch is you need to be a member. So that's how I became a member. And I joke with him all the time. I'm like, you're the reason why I joined Ivy. And you can find them on Facebook. You can find them on YouTube, Ivy Baptist Church. And also their website, ivybaptistchurch.com or .org. Try both. I can't remember. So joined the youth ministry there, joined the youth praise team, youth and young adult praise team, sang in the youth and young adult choir, and worked on the social media team as well while I was there. So I was there from 2011 until 2016 when I came back home. And then coming back home at Bethel again, praise team, working with the youth ministry, working in sound and projection, just picking up whatever little things that I could in wherever they needed help. And then in 2018, it came to Beijing. So this brings us to our here and now. Before I get into where I'm at now, let's just talk about why church has been so important to me. I mentioned it a little bit earlier about fellowship and having those bonds and having those friendships, having those relationships has really had a super huge impact on my life, a very positive impact on my life. When you hear me talk about my brothers and sisters, I am talking about persons that I have met at my various churches, people that I still talk to. Like take Reverend Woodard, for example. We still communicate on a fairly regular basis. And he is someone that I look up to, someone that I admire, someone that I love. Like, he is one of my big brothers. And also, shout out to him. He has a Bible study series that he posts on his IGTV and also on YouTube. So I'll post the links for those because they are pretty informative. They're pretty short, something that you can get through listening to on your way to work, on your way to wherever, while you're at work, wherever you are. And I'm trying to convince him to turn it into a podcast so I can just listen to them one right after the other. But it's pretty good. I always love the way that he teaches and preaches. But I've been able to form these relationships. And, you know, we form these bonds because of our love for God and because of our love for people. And honestly, like, some of my best friends just come from church environments. And yes, there are sometimes, like, I know what church hurt is. I've experienced a bit of church hurt, and I've experienced, you know, people latching onto you because of what they think you bring to the table. And when you no longer bring that thing, or once you've left, they just sort of cut you off. And that's fine. I mean, it's not fine, but you know, you get over it, you deal with it, because that's not the spirit of God. And so I appreciate the relationships I have where we can worship together and we can talk together, we can laugh together, we can just have a good time together, just all around. And so when I think about just a lot of my friendships over the years in every place that I've lived, the bulk of those friendships come from church or come from our shared belief in God. So yeah, it's very important for me to find a church home wherever I live. Very, very important. I almost don't know how to make friends outside of church or work. And actually, now that I think about it, I don't have very many friends outside of church and work. Somebody pray for me. Okay, so here we are now in Beijing, China. How do we find a church home in Beijing, China? A church home for people who believe in Jesus. So I was looking, and when I don't go to church on a Sunday, it feels strange because, you know, that's just been my tradition. And I've never really had an unconventional job where I couldn't go to church on a Sunday. And then I came here, I worked for a training center, and I had to work on Sundays. My days off were Wednesday and Thursday. So Thursday was my Sunday. And it was just strange. And I did not know how to even go about looking for a church. And, you know, my mother asked me, like, have you found any place? I'm just like, I don't know. And so one day at work, a coworker reached out to me, and, you know, just in talking, we could tell that each of us were believers. And she mentioned this church, and she mentioned something called the Embassy. I'm like, Embassy? Like, I don't need a passport or a visa or anything. Like, I just want to go to church. She's no, that's just the name of what the service is called, the Embassy. So, okay. So the Embassy was happening on Thursday nights. Now for me, Thursday was my day off, but if I've been home all day, I don't want to go out at night. And if I've been out all day, I don't want to stay out. And so going to the Embassy on Thursday nights, as much as I wanted to go to church, it was just not feasible for me. So I did connect to BICF, Beijing International Christian Fellowship, and City Church. And I did connect with them via WeChat. And one day, they sent out this survey, or posted a survey, about trying to find a new time to meet the needs of expats who were, or foreign ID holders who were here and had unconventional jobs and had unconventional schedules. And I'm like, this is me. And so the time that they settled on was Tuesday mornings at 10 o'clock. So I'm like, oh, this is perfect. Or 10:30. I'm like, oh, this is great. I can go there and then I can go to work after. It just means that I start my morning a little bit earlier, and that's fine. And that is how Embassy Daytime got to be a really big part of my life. And so in the fall of 2018, after I had been here for just a couple of months, Embassy Daytime started, and I got to go. And there, a beautiful relationship between myself and City Church was born. And going to Embassy after a few weeks, I got to join the praise team, and that was a super big blessing, just to be a part of that. And so that was, it was different, but for me, it was still church. And that was 2018, fall of 2018. And that carried me up until the end of 2019. So I didn't do Embassy nighttime on Thursday nights very much, but Tuesday mornings, that was all me. On the rare occasion that I did have a Sunday off, and when I say rare, I'm talking maybe 2 or 3 Sundays in a year that I had off, I would visit City Church big church, as I call it. And when I say big church, it is big church. And it was intimidating for me. It was so many people. I'm like, I just want Embassy. Embassy is smaller. And even Embassy nighttime is bigger than Embassy daytime. And so Embassy daytime is always my preferred because it is smaller. And mind you, the people at Embassy nighttime are lovely. Some of them are in daytime as well. They're lovely people. I love hanging out with them. It's just the fact that there are so many of them at one time in one space. And then COVID happened. And for a while, we were able to meet in homes, and then we transitioned into Zoom. And then I got a new job, and my new job was a Monday through Friday job. And I could no longer attend Embassy daytime. And that was borderline heartbreaking. I mean, that took some getting used to. So I attempted to come to Thursday nights to Embassy nighttime. I made it out maybe about 2 or 3 times. And each time I would go, I was just exhausted and just like, yes, amen. And so I asked our young adult pastor here, Pastor Ben, I'm like, hey, so I have the weekends off now, you know. I know that we're not super meeting in person right now, but is there any way that I could maybe join the praise team for Big Church? And he's like, yeah, like just come out, we'll see how it goes, and we can go from there. Perfect. So I ended up joining the praise team for Big Church. And for a while, we did get to meet live, like in person. And then something happened, and then we couldn't anymore. And then we could, and then we couldn't. Like, COVID has been doing a lot. But since then, and that was maybe October or November of last year, of 2020. Since then, I've been on the praise team for Big Church. And I am also a hubster because of Nastia, my heart, my lovely Nastia, who can get me to do anything. And really, it's just what I've been doing in my other churches. It's literally just me filling the roles that I've filled in my other churches. Maybe it looks a little different, but at the core, it's the same thing. So that's been my journey with churches. Like right now, I am with City Church, BICF. You can find them on YouTube. If you type in BICF, City Church, or City Church Connect, you can find us on YouTube. I'll also drop the links for them as well, for all of my churches. For you to, if you are in any of those places and you desire fellowship, a church home, please feel free to check out one of mine. My church home is your church home. And especially if you're in Beijing, if you are looking for somewhere to be, no matter where you are on your walk, if you are just starting, if you are further along, if you haven't even started yet and you're just wondering, you're just questioning, no matter where you are, this is a wonderful church for you to come and check out. So it's been a pretty short episode, I think. I don't know, I could be lying. I haven't looked at the numbers yet. But I hope that has been helpful, informative for anybody that does not know me very well, anybody that's new to my life. I hope that it's been truthful for the people that do know me well. And for anybody that I have met through church, through any of those churches, and you're watching right now, thank you. Thank you for being a part of my journey. Thank you for loving me the way that God loves. I am grateful. I am appreciative. And like I said, I don't actually know how to make friends outside of church and work. And honestly, in Freeport, the people I go to church with were the people that I worked with. And in New Providence, or Nassau, New Providence. The people that I went to church with, they were the people that I spent most of my time with. And I mean, my best friend, she and I don't go to the same church. Shout out to Paige. She and I don't go to the same church, but we are both churched, and we've both visited each other's churches several times. And Sarah, Ye Shante is her real name, but we call her Sarah, one of my other best friends, came together because of church, being at the College of the Bahamas, now the University of the Bahamas, together, and having those connections. And so I've made like super strong connections from people that I've been to church with. And here navigating relationships is a little bit different, because in Virginia, even though I wasn't working, I was there as a student. And so anything that I did was through Hampton University. Those people I sang in the choir with, you know, or I did go to church with. And so it's always been this, like, they've always been intertwined, those lives. Here in Beijing, it has been different because my friendships are from work or from church. And those two worlds have not yet collided. I'm actually interested to see if they ever do, like, without my inviting everybody in my life to come together. So I am interested to see what would happen if they do. Because my work friendships, like, we're super diverse in just about every way. We're sort of fusing into one another because we've spent so much time together. But at the core, like, our core personalities, our beliefs, our life experiences are so different. And of course, with church, we're bonded by that shared belief. And so those two worlds for me are actually very different. And I mean, this is not the basis of this episode, but what has been swirling around in my mind recently is how different those two worlds for me are. And yeah, I don't know. It's interesting to me. It might not be as interesting to you. And if it wasn't, I'm sorry. You can't get these last like 2-3 minutes back. My bad. But I'm glad that y'all have been rocking with me. This is episode 6. The next episode is going to be the last one for this season. And I'm hoping to have something a little bit different for you. I'm hoping. I have some thoughts swirling around in my head. So I have to see if these thoughts make sense so that we can bring it to fruition and give you something nice for episode 7. Yeah. So thank you guys for watching. Thank you for listening. You have been a blessing and I appreciate you. So until next time, with love, XOXO, Dr. Baby.
Girl in Beijing, tra-la-la-la, and she looks like the sugar in a plum. Yeah, she looks like the sugar